The shortgrass prairie spans across the Great Plains from central Alberta in Canada through central and eastern Montana, as well as parts of North and South Dakota, Nebraska, Colorado, Kansas, Oklahoma, and a sliver of New Mexico, ending in central Texas. Of the 1.1 million square miles of North American grasslands, about 22% of it is shortgrass prairie. This translates to about 300,000 square miles. Animals present on the shortgrass prairie include white-tailed deer, the locally extirpated American bison and elk, the black-tailed prairie dog, swift fox, mountain lion, the federally endangered black-footed ferret, the Texas horned lizard, western diamondback rattlesnake, plains leopard frog, the lesser prairie chicken, burrowing owl, and bald eagle.
The soil present in the shortgrass prairies consists mostly of mollisols. These soils contain a high amount of organic matter and considered some of the most fertile soils in the world. The high organic matter concentration in mollisols is due to the fires that sweep throughout the prairie every 2 to 3 years. Other soil types that can be found in the shortgrass prairie are intsols and vertisols. The disbursement and placement of these soils determine the vegetation present throughout the area. The vegetation species include mostly short to medium height grasses and shrubs. The most common grasses include blue grama and buffalo grass, accounting for 70 to 90% of the overall vegetation on the shortgrass prairie. Other species that are found in this area are western wheatgrass, a shrub known as winterfat, and scarlet globe mallow. All of these species have direct relationships with grazing animals present in the environment. If these areas are overgrazed or are in drought conditions, varieties of cactus, snakewood, and Russian thistle can overtake the area. So it is important to monitor these areas and their vegetation to keep the rangeland healthy.
Historically, the shortgrass prairie was home to millions of bison as well as elk, sagegrass, and prairie dogs. It was also a common occurrence for grizzly bears, gray wolves, and other apex predators to be present on these rangelands. In the 1930s, the Dust Bowl swept through the landscape. It was a result of overgrazing, very little precipitation, and cultivation. Large patches of exposed soil were created by these farming attempts, and wind sweeping through the plains created enormous dust storms, the effects of which could be felt in eastern cities as far as New York. Around 1936, the Dust Bowl came to an end, and eventually the patches of erodible soil were reverted back to rangelands.
The largest concern facing the shortgrass prairies of the United States is the increase in urbanization and repurposing the land. Many landowners cannot afford to manage the land properly and turn to new uses or even sell their land to developers. Many organizations, such as the Thunder Basin Grasslands Prairie Ecosystem Association, are working with the landowners to come up with sustainable and affordable alternatives to land management. This includes incentives to ensure that landowners are managing their land with the ecosystem and habitat in mind. Being a large habitat for hundreds of bird species, including the lesser prairie chicken, loss of the shortgrass prairies would result in the loss of these birds as well as other species and families of wildlife. You can help today by supporting organizations such as the Isaac Walton League of America, the Thunder Basin Grasslands Prairie Ecosystem Association, and the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation.